Good afternoon, and thank you to welcome to the June 12th Mount Brydges Arena Building Committee. Of the members, we do have regrets from member Mike McGuire, who cannot be here, and Sandy will be leaving probably before the meeting is over. But other than that, everyone's here. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we move to presentations, delegations, petitions, of which there are none. So we will go to approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any questions or concerns about the previous minutes? Seeing none, then I'm looking for a motion to approve, made by Councillor Wilsey, seconded by Mayor Grantham. All in favor? Or Sandy, do you agree?
Yes.
Perfect. Unfinished business. So Mike, the floor is yours. We have Mike from A-Link. What's the rest of it? A-Link Architects. Thank you. I'm gonna bring from.
Okay, thanks for having me again. I'm gonna zoom in on my screen.
So maybe perhaps if the public is watching, this is a review of the boards to approve them in their finality before the public meeting for June the 20th.
Correct, yeah. Among a few other things at the start of this, yes. So, last meeting, so we're continuing the visioning for the new Mount Brydges Arena. We looked at programming, within that we looked at the Caradoc Community Center and what spaces it has. We looked at the revised concept floor plan, which included the community space in the gymnasium. We looked at the revised site concept plan as well, which includes that floor plan shown to scale. And both of those are on the boards. And then we looked at the public consultation, reviewed the draft presentation boards. We spoke briefly about the timeline and location. So this meeting, so as of June 5th, Council directed everyone to proceed with the public consultation. So mainly we'll talk about public consultation, we'll review the final presentation boards, review some talking points and some key points, and talk about logistics and layout at the front end of this presentation. That's it. It's pretty straightforward. Should be a shorter session. So it's going to be an in-person event. It's Tuesday, June 20th at 7 to 9 at the Caradoc Community Center at the address that everyone would know already. Really, it's informal discussions of the project, the concepts, and what the options are on the table. It's really just to keep everyone in the loop and allow for public feedback and engagement, which is super important. So a few of the goals, like why are we even doing this? Really it's to receive the community input of the design intent prior to proceeding further into the design. Design is, as I mentioned, it's a process. It just doesn't happen overnight, especially with big complex buildings such as arenas or community centers. So it does take a lot of time to develop those. And so we want to make sure we are starting off on the right foot, particularly looking at site, so where we're going to put this thing. The arena locations, we can speak of the iterations and challenges, which we show on one of the other site boards. And then the programming, what are we even doing? Is it arena? Is it arena plus community spaces? Is it arena plus community spaces plus a gymnasium? Those are the two main items that we really want to have public feedback on. So hopefully people will come out. Happy to discuss the project with everybody. Keep moving along. So some logistic questions I have, and I don't know if you have the answers to these, or maybe you can just let me know. The intent, and the way we've done this in the past, is to have 24 by 36 panels or boards printed and then mounted on easels. So question possibly for Rob, I don't know if you can answer this or not. Do you guys have access to easels? Like we would need 12 of them.
We have access. I'm not sure if we have 12, but I will find out for you.
Okay. So I have a floor plan of Caradoc and Community Center, in which we'll chat of like how we're going to do the layout. We can modify it based off of how many we have. Unfortunately, our firm, we don't do this a lot, so, and we usually don't provide that. There's other ways we can do it, but I would think we would need 12 because how many panels? I expect to have 2 of each, just the way we're going to kind of set up the layout. And I guess who's printing the boards? We're happy to print them. Again, I'm directed probably to Rob. or if you guys want to print the boards and bring them.
Is it easier for you to print them and mount them on dry core, or do you want?
Yeah, we get them printed on Coroplast, and we can do them. We have a printer we use all the time in London, so I'm happy to bring them with me.
Why don't you just do that?
Done. Okay.
That way I know they're done.
Yeah.
And then what I can do is, if we don't have 12 easels, Mike, I'll find 12 easels.
Okay,
So,
perfect. So then another item on the list last week was, so who would be on hand to help facilitate the event? So how many from A-Link? There's definitely will be 2 from our team. So basically myself and another architect, senior architect, that can help facilitate this. I didn't know if you had other staff, like programming staff, that were going to be attending. Again, directed to Rob.
at this point, it would just be myself. Darren is, he's not available that evening, and I just found that out today. So I can put see if Paul Lattimore, who's the supervisor of recreation programs, if he's able to attend as well from staff. I would expect the committee will be here.
I think if Paul could be there, like he can then speak to what are the options for him as far as programming, and because that's really the important part for the community buy-in, right? Is what kind of programming can we offer outside of rink activities? I think we all know what can happen in the rink. But
Yeah. And so I think a lot of this comes down to how many people are going to attend this. It's hard to know. I have that on another board here, which we'll speak to. Because the more people we need on hand to help facilitate. Other people are kind of waiting, right? Because the idea is this was not going to be a presentation where I would stand up and tell everyone how it is. It's not the idea at all. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we just have to kind of play it out. It's really hard to judge these events.
is there anybody from the committee not planning on being there on the 20th? No, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I assumed everyone was going to be coming, which is great. Just the more kind of one-on-ones or two-on-one conversations, the better I find. It shouldn't be an intimidating process at all. The idea is to get the feedback, have everyone provide their input. And so how are we going to do that? The way that we found this the most advantageous is actually just sticky notes, so which again, I don't know who's bringing these. I'm happy to bring them along with pens. And the idea is to have some blank panels at the end of the presentation. You'll see how we'll do the layout. So the idea is you can guide the person along the 6 boards, and at the end, you can direct them to, if they feel comfortable, writing any comments down, what they like, what they don't like. Both are important. And then stick them on the board, so I'll show you how that works. And then the idea is post-consultation, we'll photo document everything, and then actually document everything, all the written, and then look at the stats. And again, it really depends on how many people show up. So again, there's a lot of variables in this to make this work properly. But the idea is that we would then, A-Link would do the tracking, and then we would then speak about it at our next meeting. I unfortunately will be away the meeting in July, but not more than likely, we'll have the information compiled and then provided to Rob for that meeting, and then I'll have to get a proxy to sit in for me for that meeting. I'm assuming we can get some tables as well, Rob, at Caradoc. I'm sure you have that there. I don't envision us needing chairs, but we can kind of look at the plan and kind of speak to that. The idea is just to kind of bring people in, swoop them around, and have them leave again. It shouldn't be a long process. I didn't know if the other amenities were like water or food or drink was going to be provided, or that's even thought of, but I just put it on the list here.
I was planning on getting coffee, water, and probably cookies and fruit tray or something like that to extent.
Okay, awesome. And again, I put anticipated numbers on here. I don't know if there's any early indications of who and how many would be attending. We'll just have to kind of play it by ear, and just hopefully people will be patient if it's super busy. Never know. Awareness was another item I put on here. So obviously we're speaking of this in our committee meetings, but only a handful of people would be aware of this if they see this. So how else are people being, is this on social media? Is this being advertised somehow?
I know I put it on Just Ask my Brydges, and I think you did too, Rob, did you not?
Yes.
Yep. And have you done anything yourself?
Yeah, I've shared it, and Yeah, I've shared it a couple places, plus on my own Facebook page, and I know it's on a couple other different Brydges pages too. I saw a couple reminders of it just came out today. So there's lots that are out there.
It's not getting the traction that I thought it would though.
Yeah.
Like I thought people would be sharing it like crazy and it's.
So the user groups know. So one of the big things is we wanted to make sure is that the user groups knew, and then they could then themselves spread it within their groups. I think that the toughest part for us is that it's the end of June, school is wrapping up. I mean, a lot of the user groups, they're done, they haven't been in the arena for a while. So, but the community itself of Mount Brydges, it is a buzz. I hear it wherever I go. They'll say, what time is that again? And I would like to say, oh, go look, but yes, I tell them. But it's a buzz. They are talking about it. Whether or not they're able to be there, there is a ton of elementary school graduations in the next 2 weeks. So it'll be a little bit tough to get everybody there that wants to get there. But I do know that the word on, I don't know, what do you call it? The word on the street is that, oh, if I can't go, I'm going to have so-and-so go, and then they can come back and tell us what's being said, and they're going to take pictures and things like that. That's all I've heard, but I mean, it's been a buzz, so that's a good thing.
I know minor soccer is planning to attend. They've reached out to me.
So just so you're aware, there's been 26 shares from the municipality's Facebook page. So we can have them send it out again so it gets to the top of the page again, and then we can reshare it as a group as well.
Yeah, it goes without saying, the more people that show up, the more successful and the better extrapolation of numbers in the end for the kind of post consultation is better, right? When you only have 2 people show up, it skews the numbers. So we just hope more people will show up. So any way you can do that. I don't know if my FM was all going to be there as well. That was the next question. Media, didn't know if you had any media coming to the event. So that's just, again, it's just an open question to the audience that was put out there.
He's at the next meeting, so we'll make sure that he's welcome.
Yeah, invite Chris to come. Yeah, I figured he would just based off if he was part of the last committee. So yeah, so that's where that's at. Layout. So initial concepts would be to get 2 of each board set them up around the middle of the court space, have people come in, start obviously at the entrance here. We'll have a couple tables, 4x8 set up at each end so people don't walk through the middle because the boards are only one-sided. And the idea was to have a few point people at each of the starting points and then guide people along. So if you have a lot of people, someone can kind of maybe be by the door and kind of filter people through to either direction. It'll be the same information on both sides. The circles represents the space, the last board where you would put your sticky notes. So again, having some tables set up where people can kind of write their notes and then come back and stick it on the board or even kind of leave it on the table. We'll have a few different things set up there so people feel comfortable and have enough room to do their writing. And then leave. It shouldn't be a long process for people to come in. And the idea is then just kind of keep filtering them through as we go. And you kind of guide the person along the boards, or if they feel comfortable, you can kind of send them along, and if they have any questions, they can come find you. That's another way to do it. That seems the best way to do it. Now, that really is contingent upon us having easels. If not, we could figure out a bunch of extra tables and somehow stand these boards up, because again, they're long and they need to stand up somehow. So Rob, you and I can kind of chat leading up to the meeting. We'll figure out how to do this. This seems the best way. If not, we can always mount them on the wall, worst case scenario, and then kind of just change the orientation of this. It's just, it is a very big space and the boards won't take up that much space. So that's that idea. So is there any questions on logistics or any other items that maybe I didn't mention?
Anybody have any questions? It seems pretty straightforward to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So then the boards themselves haven't changed much, as I mentioned at the start of the meeting, because I think they're well developed for what we want to talk about and present to the public. So the first board is purely about the site, its location. So we have an overall map of Mount Brydges. It shows where the existing Tri-Township Arena is. It shows where the Caradoc Community Center parcel is on the upper image. The lower image obviously is in a large site plan. Again, it shows the two parcels. The idea, again, this has all been in the meetings already, but the idea is to create this as a recreation destination for Mount Brydges. So that is the intent, to keep the arena generally within the same vicinity as it is now, and then reuse the Tri-Township parcel in the future for some other potentially recreation space, whether it's new court spaces or what have you. The second is really about programming. So this is, again, this is the where board, this is the what board. So programming, what are we intending to do? Arena is first and foremost. That's the whole reason why we're talking about this. And then the question upon that after is, okay, what about all these other community spaces, especially if you have to demolish the Caradoc Community Center, where do those spaces go? So the idea is to build those into the arena. So that's the community hub with gathering spaces, meeting and activity rooms, and the multi-purpose room. Again, as I've mentioned before, the multi-purpose room is equivalent size, same thing with the community kitchen to the Gemini. So if you've been in that room in the Gemini, you get a feeling for how big that space is currently in the design. And then everything else that is needed to make a facility run. So all the support spaces, the washroom spaces. The other kind of add-on spaces would be gymnasium, courts, and the storage and anything to make that work is change rooms. And obviously we have a bunch of exterior work that have to occur as well when you're building a new project.
Mike, a quick question
Yes.
on the kitchen.
Yeah.
So is the kitchen what is currently at Gemini, or are you planning on replicating a kitchen that would be similar to what's in the Caradoc Community Center now?
So size-wise, it is very similar to the Caradoc Community Center. Actually, it's a little bit bigger. So the idea is we could turn it into a teaching kitchen, in quotations, if that's the intent. Or we could shrink the size down and have it similar to Gemini. The multi-purpose room here, which I'm showing on the plan, is the same size as the Gemini. The storage room associated with the multi-purpose room is the same size as the Gemini. So the kitchen is a little bit bigger, so thank you for noting that. Again, there's so many variables at this point. Nothing is given, nothing is solidified, so we just got to start somewhere to have the conversations with the public. That's the main thing.
I think the key point that I was trying to differentiate is that at the Gemini, it's only a warming center,
Correct.
right? Whereas the intent is to have a kitchen.
Yeah, there's a few different ideas with the kitchen. Again, it's not all shown, but the idea here is in its placement, if I could just quickly draw my screen. Having it located here, again, adjacencies are important when you're designing. So kitchen is adjacent to multi-purpose rooms, so we could have maybe a pass-through, rolling pass-through. Now you have that action happening across the space. I put concessions in here because you don't have a concession vendor currently, but you could, if someone would like to run it like minor hockey for an event, if we have a pass-through on this wall into the lobby, now it doubles up as concessions. If when we design this kitchen, if the idea is that this concept works, potentially we have a center island, now you potentially have a space for cooking classes within this, so it's another programming piece for you. Or it could definitely be a lot smaller, so it could be just a warming station as it is in Gemini. There's flexibility in that, but if that's the case, the space would get smaller, the building would get smaller. Let me go back up my boards here. So after the kind of the what board, the programming spaces board, is the site iterations. So this is purely about showing our work, the design work that's occurred. So we have our existing site plan, we have the addition site plan, and there's two different concepts for each of those. And obviously there's all the challenges that we spoke of how to do that. Can you even do that? No, not really, you can't. But again, it's to show your work. There's the sever the land option, which although it seems like it could work, it actually makes a very, very tight site plan. So it's even more challenging in that sense. But again, showing our work, showing the public that we've gone through this exercise. So if anyone has asked, have you thought about this? We have, we're showing it, but then we can talk about it. Again, it's an open forum for people to provide their input, so we want to hear everyone out because it is important to engage them and get their input on this design project. And then the last is really the iterations that we showed for if we had to knock down the Caradoc Community Center, how much the arena how much space it actually takes up, how much parking takes up, how much green space takes up. Something has to kind of give. So there's a bunch of different options there. The next board is the site vision. So this just talks about key features for the site plan. Again, this is showing us knocking down the Caradoc Community Center and basically designing a full recreation facility, all in. If you went all in and put a gym, an arena, everything, all the community spaces, this is about how much space it will take up on the site. This is roughly how much the parking will take up on site, and this is what's left over. So potentially these 2 soccer fields are left over. Everyone kind of knows how big a soccer field is. If everyone's just coming to the site too, they'll know just because you can just stand outside and say, oh, okay, that's how much is basically going to remain untouched. And then there's the key features for this site of what we're trying to build into this architectural design. So talking about transparency of programming, reinforcing the street wall, creating some kind of an iconic arrival. This is a key public building for the community. It should speak to Mount Brydges and the community in itself. Talk about drop-off areas, talk about multi-seasonal programming. It's all kind of on here. Again, this is very high-level site plan concept, but it gives you the idea of what the intent is. And then there's an option for a floor plan. This isn't the final floor plan. It's one option. It really just shows the entire wish list on a page so people can understand kind of how this green mass of a building, what is that in reality? Well, it kind of turns into this. I'm not saying this is the final floor plan at all, though. Just gives people an idea of the concept, a concept for the floor plan. As we keep moving forward in the design, I envision 5 or 6 of different variations of this floor plan, because there's things that can shift around for sure. Some things are given, some things can definitely shift around, which drastically change how the floor plan can be laid out. And then on the bottom, it really is just an outline again of the programming. So it's really a kind of a combination of the what and the where together. It's a floor plan.
Yes, Mayor Grant.
Yeah, thanks. Mike, could you go back the slide before that, the pictures? So yeah, just stop there for a minute. I was gonna wait for new business to mention this, but I received a nice letter from a Mount Brydges resident who's very favorable to what we're doing, but a reminder that an arena is more than hockey. And then given the success of Aor's last week out at the Gemini Center, right, to reiterate it in people's mind that even the ice pad is more than hockey. So I don't know where, and I just maybe premature in bringing this up, but on the pictures, is there somewhere to depict to people that even the ice is more than an arena, right? It's community space. It can be used for other things, because I think that's part of the, for lack of a better word, the sales process to the public. And I really hadn't thought of it myself to like, got this letter, and then Aor's last week with what happened out there, right? Somewhere to put it in there, and again, it might be premature, Chair, and bringing it up, but I thought this is a good
maybe
point.
instead of the bus and the kid carrying the hockey bags, a picture of an event, a non-ice event on the
A
rink.
non-ice event, because
And then maybe a figure skater rather than a hockey player.
yeah, something, right?
Yeah, those are great points. We can definitely modify the board for sure, and add a lot more programming in it for sure. Just smaller photos, but that's fine.
Just the
Yeah.
really the concept. Of
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean it could be anything. It could be concerts. It could be some kind of it could be an exterior fair. It could be an interior fair. It could be both. You could have an event on the inside and then have some kind of really cool fair happening in the green space and the parking lot at the same time. The idea is that this becomes a hub for the community. So yeah, they can't fit everything on the board for sure, but that's an awesome point, and I definitely will add a few more key photos in here, or just maybe make these a little bit smaller. You gotta remember, these boards are 24 across by 36 long, so they are quite big. I think we will be able to have space for more photos for sure.
I could always buy 13 easels and not 12.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, since the last board really is about the comments and the public having their say, and so the way I thought it would be best is to differentiate between programming and site, because maybe people have strong opinions on one or the other, so that we're already beginning to filter the inputs, which I think is helpful, because all this information has to be taken and tabulated and then reviewed. So it just helps having a place to put it. It also helps us in that the boards themselves, and we have lots of people, which is amazing. We hope that will happen. And these boards are not just covered with sticky notes, so you can't see the work, right? So the idea is actually to have the sticky notes live on a different board. So that's why we have this board. And that's really it. It's actually quite straightforward.
You said the boards are 24 by 36?
Correct, yeah.
Any questions from anybody
No, just
on the board specifically?
on the board specifically, I was looking for the verbiage as to how we describe it. I really like focusing on the words, community center, rec center, and trying to minimize the word, even though an arena is part of it, right? So that's what I was looking for too, Mike, was the words to how we describe it, because I think, Greg, you said it in one of your posts, right? You called it the rec center, and that's really what it is, rather than the arena. So I was looking for the verbiage on the boards.
Okay. You wanted like a written up, like almost like a Word document for each board then?
No, just I was looking for, as you were going through there, every time we use, arena's part of it, right? It's just.
So maybe instead of, I don't know if you're having a title on top of each board, but maybe say rec center rather than arena.
Yes, again, it's semantics, right? The project is the Mount Brydges Arena.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've always been calling it.
Yeah.
Potentially it does translate into the Mount Brydges Recreation Center. It's just, we haven't been directed to do that as of yet, right? So.
I know
Okay.
the motion from council stipulated building an arena.
Yeah.
A nice
Fair
path.
enough.
Yeah.
No, yeah, words matter, right?
Yeah. The arena is a given in my again, this is all my opinion. The arena is a given. That's what has been mandated, is you need a new arena. Your old one's failing. The question is, are we going to do all this other stuff?
Got it. Okay.
And that's part of the public engagement session, is to gauge their opinion on what we really should be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, I guess.
I'm happy though to write up, in the next few days or so, and I can send it through Rob, and then you can send it out as a Word document. If people need verbiage on the boards, I'm happy to do so. Again, it really depends on how people show up, because I might end up doing all the talking. If it's just a few people here and there coming through, right? It really depends.
So some of the key things that I think we need to focus on is to relate space to spaces that people can already relate to. Like, I like the idea of comparing the community space to the West Gas room, because most probably anybody who uses the arena has been to Gemini and knows the size of the West Gas room, so you can start to envision what kind of activities can happen in there. Parking stats.
Parking stats, I turned off my screen share, but it is on the site plan. Sorry, turn my mic on. It is on the site plan. All the stats are on there. So if they need, you can point it out to them, but it says 210 parking spaces. It says it right on the site plan.
But again, relating it to what people know, what do we have currently at Tri-Township? What do we have currently at
West Middlesex Memorial Arena.
West Middlesex and at the Caradoc Community Center? So
Yep.
that people
I can
can
get that info.
kind of do the math and see that even though it looks like there's not much parking on one iteration with the two soccer fields, that there is actually a fair amount of parking, and that we haven't being too stingy on the parking lot and making people walk too far.
I was just sending a note to the Bulldogs to remind them of the open house.
So maybe, Sandy, is there anything specifically that you would like to see mentioned or talked about at that public meeting?
No, truly everything that Mike, that you have done is what we need to talk about. I mean, you've got everything in there that the user groups will be interested in. It describes why we've put things in, why we've left things off. The walking track will come out. I will let you know that. I mean, there will be people that will ask why that's not on there, and that's fair, and that's a good question, because that's one of the things that they brought up. But they will be looking at it with their own use for their own, use the functions of their own user groups, right? So that's just those particular user groups. So you'll have the skating club, well, both skating clubs, you'll have the hockey, and you'll have Bulldogs as well. So that's just the particular user groups right there, but they have been paying attention to what we've been doing. So they're ready to come and look through the boards and ask questions. So I think we're good.
The mayor's busy typing.
No, I was sending a note to the president of the Bulldogs while I
Yeah,
thought of it.
no, you said that, I heard that.
Yep.
Greg, is there anything that you specifically think needs to be messaged or needs to be presented?
The only thing I can think of, which I don't know if this is the correct time for it, is just the cost and how it's gonna work into the budget and everything going forward. I don't know if that's the time for it, but it's something we should definitely still be thinking about.
So I think people are gonna ask. I think too, we need to talk about the overall view of the entire property and not just focus on the building. That when we go to council, I think we need to go for the ask not only for the building itself, but for the parking lot and for any tear down costs, and so that it's all funded under one envelope as opposed to having to go back multiple times, because I think that will be more difficult than, like if there's gonna be remediation of the Tri-Township site, what's the basic cost of that even to just, tear up the concrete and put sod over it, and which might be more expensive than putting a court on it or of some kind, I don't know. But I think we need to give some kind of thought that we haven't got that point of the discussion yet, but that's on the agenda for us to speak about in the future. And then not be shy about the $30+ million price tag of that facility, because that may make a lot of people, I mean the gist of what we're asking is are we on the right path? And if people see that kind of investment in the community for a building that's gonna last for 50, 60 years,
Yeah.
what'd you say, Rob?
Oh, 50, yeah.
Yeah.
At least 50.
And so then that kind of time frame of payback, if we were using the 50/50, pay for it in 25 and then start socking replacement cost away for 25, what kind of that looks like for our budget purposes.
Yeah, so for cost, and I presented actually to most of you, I think, at the last week for the fire station. It's the same, our process is the same for, doesn't matter if small projects, giant projects, like an arena, is you have to start somewhere with some kind of design, some kind of intention. We get it costed, and then that cost then informs the design, which then informs the next level of costing. So in this project, we would have at least 3 levels of costing happen on the project, starting with the Class D, which is super, super high level, and then going to Class C, then Class B costing as we get further along. And each of those milestones, we'll have to discuss when council gets brought into it. So for the fire station, for instance, we did 2 levels of costing. Class B, it went to council, and then council voted on it, right? It'd be the same idea here. We have to start somewhere so we can start whittling down and start making decisions. Otherwise, we don't want to design this whole thing, spend years designing, really, getting a cost in and say, oh, we're over budget. It doesn't work that way. Costs are too fluid, so we have to do some work to get it costed to then make some value-based decisions. So the timeline for this public consultation, it was too tight, obviously, to do that, to get the first level of costs. So for now, I think we're still trying to determine the what, and then we can then move that into the costing after.
Well, I think in terms of price tags, I wouldn't want to be too specific yet at this point. Like, the reality of it being over $30 million, I think will be enough for people to go, ooh, or yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah.
If it's not, if people don't blink at the price tag and what it may do for their property taxes, then we know we're on the right path. And if they en masse say there's no way we can afford to do something like that, then we know we're on the cutting board. So, yes, Andy.
Thank you. I thought about it. I think it was something that you had mentioned to me. So when we were talking about the community center, that will come up as well. So the bricks and various things that people may or may not want to see, those will be questions as well if we get the generation. There is a large group of that generation of the families that have put a lot of money and groups in the area like the Lions Club, et cetera, that put donations and money and fundraised for the community center. So they're probably going to bring up those questions as well. Sorry, I was just thinking about that because we were talking about that.
And I know we had discussions about legacy issues, but that wasn't on the boards anymore, though, was it?
So I had it in my presentation, which I can bring up from, I have to dig it out of my files here, but would have been 2 presentations ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So let me load that
I
up.
remember that.
So maybe, Robert, is anybody making a list of the talking points? Because we could just do it as talking point too.
Yeah, but I also could put it on a board. Like the work's done. I've done a lot of boards already. So let me just look at my screen here and just show you what we've done.
So I was quite surprised. Somebody came up to me and said that if we do end up making a decision to tear down a Caradoc Community Center, they don't want the brick moved, they want the brick.
So the brick back.
They want the brick back, because that has more meaning to them than it moving over to the new facilities, so. It was quite an interesting take on it, and I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that at all, but I kind of get it.
Yeah, yep.
So this is from presentation number 4. So this was May the 8th. So again, the integration of the Caradoc Community Center and its design features into the building, of course, that's possible. That's a good point, is do we put the bricks, do you donate it back to the families? I can't make that decision, but we can definitely integrate design features and pieces into the new build for sure. So I'm happy to turn this into a board if we need to, or it could be just talking points. We're already in the space, so you can actually just point to, for instance, the honor wall, which will be in the room that we're in. The idea is, it's not just the Caradoc Community Center, it's Tri-Township Arena, its history, it's actually about Brydges as well, and the community's history. It's all very important to integrate into the design of this new building, wherever this new building happens to be. We assume it's going to be on this site, but yes. So I don't know if it makes sense having a board with this or not.
That's great.
Are we still going to be doing something together? I know the Lions had an agreement to use the Caradoc Community Center when it was built, and I know they said they haven't been able to use it the last little bit with the vaccine clinic and everything that's going on. Are we going to be still having that same agreement, or are we negotiating that with them so that they can still use that facility, or is that has that been discussed?
Rob?
I believe the term of the agreement talks about the life of the building. So it was a 5-year arrangement. Council did extend that agreement to so they could recoup the time they lost during the pandemic. I'd have to go back and look at the the final terms, but I believe there was a clause in there about the facility and the life of the facility.
I think the question would be more that, you know, what's council's will of the day? Are we willing to let them continue? At the end of the day, most of the work that the Lions Club does comes back to the community anyways. You know, the only thing that we need to be careful of is that whatever usage they have doesn't deter other usage, right? Like just using the old senior center as an example, you know, we had this club come in on the third Thursday of every month, and this club come in on the second Thursday, but the other 2 Thursdays were empty, but we couldn't program anything because 2 out of the 4 weeks were taken. And people need the consistency of the time open. That's kind of the issue that I'm thinking would be something we would need to be careful of as a council if we're gonna enter into some kind of agreement with the Lions Club. But, you know, the Lions Club is certainly an organization in the Mount Brydges community that we need to be cognizant of. There is certainly a fundraising juggernaut, so, you know, anything that needs to be done in the community in the future, you know, the Lions Club will be involved in some way, shape, or form. So,
Yeah.
So, irregardless of what the agreement says now, it's going to end up being a council decision at that point. Anything else? Mike, did you have anything else?
Nope. No, nothing else for me.
Any other inquiries or comments now you went on a tour, and we haven't really had a chance to connect yet since the tour, but was there anything on those tours that you saw that you really liked or didn't like?
Thanks, Chair. They were all really impressive, but I don't know if I've told Rob this. The thing that impressed me the most at both arenas was the amount of community funding that went on. I stood at both arenas for some time and tried to do the math in my head, how much dollars have been raised by the community. There was substantial dollars raised in both, and again, everything was impressive, but for some reason that was my takeaway, how much money the community raised towards their arenas.
But you went to 2 or 3?
2.
2.
Yeah.
They're very different arenas. One, what I would say is a more budget wise, and the other is lots of frills.
Just being a visual person, it was good to go because you forget how large a full-size gymnasium is, right? You can't, until you stand there in the middle of it, and you don't understand, but it was good. It was really good.
I find that the concept being put forward is very close to the forest with the large lobby and you know, and they do programming in their lobby, so you know that's not just an empty space on a summer weekday. It's possible. There's lots of opportunities there for activity to happen. Yeah. Did you go to Greg or not? Yeah. Ed, any comments?
There was some nice use of space. I liked how the accessibility stuff was kind of up on top with kind of the seats in front. There were some nice features that I hadn't thought of and how we could incorporate that without taking a lot of space. It's very space friendly, but still offering good views.
That would be at the Listowel one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole second floor there was nice. They had some, one of the things, I'm a details person, so I noticed the perforated panels to keep the noise from echoing and just how the different arenas echoed and how the sounds came and different things like that. So it's just little details like that, I think, are things we have to take into account. The only thing I can see in our design that we might want to look at and see where our comments come in is just somewhere that could be licensed where people could watch the game. That was a nice thing in Listowel. I don't know if that's really in our plans unless we take some of the lobby area or do something different, but that's probably the only thing I can see that we're missing from our design, which could be another usable space we could rent out as well.
So Listowel had no media booth, right? They just had a space for a table, which was actually Chris's he would prefer to be in that spot. And in Forest, the media booth was used for storage. Had a lot of stuff in it. So I just don't see that as being something that, you know, maybe we don't need to spend money on that, but can spend it on something else. Yeah.
No, and that's why I didn't say meeting with us at a licensed area, like a licensed area range, so we're like a meeting room or something like that, so it was separate. Not a meeting room, but not a media room, but like a meeting room or a
Yeah.
licensed area, just in case it was misheard.
Yeah, he's referring to the blue line room, correct?
Yeah.
Right, went over, and I thought the same thing as you did, Greg. It's another space for a meeting room that you could meet out, so.
And it was a pretty substantial space from my memory.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they have that on the end wall, right? There's a bar. Actually, I have the floor plan up right now since we're talking about it. I won't put it up on the screen, but yeah, there's a bar space, and then they can kind of corral the people at the one end wall, right?
That's
Right.
Yeah. And they do have a media room as well at one end. Maybe they're not
Okay.
using it for that, but there's a music media room, at least on the floor plan is labeled.
small.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they told us that that room still was only used by one of their 8 groups.
right.
And they went in and hooked up an iPod or an iPhone and then left it. So,
For me in Listowel, it was all the standing space.
I thought that was nice too.
Like, that was fantastic, the way that you could stand basically anywhere in the room and
See.
watch it.
Great
Yeah.
view, yeah.
Whereas in Forest, not so much. The standing space was obscured by the beams.
That's right.
But Listowel is seating on 2 sides,
Yes.
right? And it has basically a second floor because of the elevator and the stairs and all that, where this design, this is what we're doing now because it's a lot less people. So again, it's hard. You look at something, you're like, oh, that's amazing. Well, we're scaled much further down, right?
Yeah.
So really, we're all kind of ground, plane level. The idea is really not to invest in the second floor unless, again, you guys tell me to. So currently, right now, and when people see the floor plans at the public consultation, the way it's designed right now is everything is ground level with a few ups so that we can still get the accessible seating, but only in a certain key area. It doesn't basically go all the way around like
So-
it does at Dorchester.
Obviously, the gymnasium has height, and the rink has height. What does the lobby have in between?
It would have some height as well, but again,
Different roof levels?
it potentially, we
Yeah.
a lot of variables.
Yeah. All right, if nobody else has any other comments, then our next meeting is July 10th. And June 20th is the open house, yeah. And then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn, made by Sandy, seconded by Colin. All in favor? Greg, you agree? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Did you talk with the operators there